motive in the murder of a Seabrook mother in front of her children.
As police continue the search for the suspect, we're learning they believe he killed the victim to avenge his brother's murder.
ABC 13's Jessica Willey is here to break down the stunning revelation, all new at 10.
How did a seemingly loving relationship turn into a chilling tale of revenge and murder? This is the haunting question that hangs over the tragic story of Mary Jane Collins, a young mother whose life was brutally cut short in a plot so deadly and calculated that it defies comprehension. In the picturesque town of Seabrook, Texas, Mary Jane Collins was known as a devoted 23-year-old mother, full of life and dreams for her two young sons. Her days were filled with the warmth of family, the laughter of children, and the hope of building a brighter future. To those who knew her, Mary Jane was a symbol of resilience and love, always putting her children first despite the challenges she faced. But beneath the surface of this seemingly idyllic life, a dark, twisted scheme was unfolding. Dwayne Ernest Hurst, a man who entered Mary Jane's life as a caring and supportive partner, harbored a secret so chilling that it would ultimately lead to her untimely death. What appeared to be a genuine relationship was, in truth, a meticulously planned act of vengeance. This wasn't just a tragic case of domestic violence, it was a cold, calculated plot, fueled by a desire for retribution against Mary Jane's past. Hurst's intentions were clear: to strike back at Michael King, the father of Mary Jane's children, who was serving time for a crime that had set this deadly chain of events in motion. As we delve deeper into this story, we'll uncover the layers of deception and betrayal that turned Mary Jane's world upside down. We'll explore the lives of those involved, the events leading up to that fateful day, and the shocking truths that emerged in its aftermath. Join us as we seek to understand how a seemingly loving relationship became a chilling tale of revenge and murder. This is more than just a story of tragedy, it's a cautionary tale, a reminder of how hidden motives can lurk beneath the surface of our lives. As we remember Mary Jane for the vibrant spirit she was, we also confront the darkness that led to her demise. Stay with us as we unravel this compelling narrative, searching for answers and lessons that can help us prevent such heart-wrenching stories in the future. Welcome to True Crime Tales HQ. I sincerely thank you, my esteemed viewers, most especially my subscribers, for your endless support. At True Crime Tales HQ we share true told and untold crime stories. Please don't forget to subscribe if you are yet to subscribe to this channel. Also share this video so others can learn from this story. You never can tell who might be passing through or know someone passing through one form of domestic violence that needs to learn from this story. In the heart of Seabrook, Texas, lived a young woman whose life radiated warmth and determination. Mary Jane Collins, at just 23 years old, was more than a name in the headlines. She was a devoted mother, a resilient spirit, and a beacon of hope for her two sons. But who was Mary Jane before the tragic events unfolded? Let's take a moment to walk through her life, to understand the person behind the tragedy. Mary Jane's journey was one of love and perseverance. A native of Texas City, she was known for her cool, easygoing nature. Her childhood was filled with dreams and aspirations, much like any young girl. But life, with its unpredictable turns, presented challenges early on. Becoming a mother in her teenage years, Mary Jane embraced her role with unwavering dedication, determined to provide the best life possible for her children. Her days were a testament to her commitment. Each morning, she woke early, preparing her boys for school, a routine that symbolized her devotion and love. Her modest apartment, nestled in the Teakwood complex, was adorned with the joyful chaos of family life: children's drawings on the fridge, toys neatly organized, and photographs capturing milestones of her sons' lives. To those who knew her, Mary Jane was a resilient force. Friends described her as loving and selfless, always placing her children's needs above her own. She navigated the complexities of co-parenting with grace, maintaining a civil relationship with Michael King, the father of one of her children, even after his incarceration. Her belief was simple yet profound: her sons deserved to know their heritage and family history. Weekends were reserved for family, often spent at her grandmother's house, a sanctuary where dreams were shared and hopes nurtured. Mary Jane spoke of her ambitions to return to school, to move into a larger home, and to create a stable, loving environment for her sons. Her vision was clear, her goals within reach, until everything changed. As we paint this portrait of Mary Jane, we see a woman who was not defined by her circumstances but rather by her strength and determination to overcome them. Her story is one of hope, dreams, and the unyielding love of a mother. It is this vibrant life that was tragically cut short, leaving behind unanswered questions and a community in mourning. In remembering Mary Jane, we honor her journey and the light she brought to those around her. Her life, though brief, was filled with meaning and purpose, a legacy that continues to inspire those who knew her. In the shadows of Seabrook's quiet streets, Dwayne Ernest Hurst emerged as a figure wrapped in complexity and contradiction. To understand the man behind the crime, we must journey back into his past, a past marked by familial bonds, loss, and a consuming thirst for vengeance. Dwayne Hurst was born into a world that was, for the most part, ordinary. Yet, like many narratives of tragedy, his story was underscored by pivotal relationships that shaped his life. Among these was the deep bond he shared with his half-brother, Dijon Triplett. Dijon was more than just family to Dwayne, he was a mentor, a confidant, and a guiding force during turbulent times. Together, they navigated the challenges of their upbringing, finding solace and strength in each other's company. However, the bond that held them together was shattered in 2020 when Dijon was murdered by Michael King. This event marked a turning point in Dwayne's life, plunging him into a world of grief and anger. The loss of his brother was more than just a personal tragedy, it ignited a fire within him, a relentless desire for retribution that would come to define his every move in the years that followed. As Dwayne grappled with the void left by Dijon's death, his thoughts turned increasingly towards revenge. The pain of losing his brother became intertwined with a singular focus on making Michael King pay for his actions. But with King behind bars, Dwayne's path to vengeance took a twisted and calculated turn. In the depths of his anguish, a plan began to form, a plan that would target the one connection linking King to the outside world, Mary Jane Collins, the mother of King's child. Dwayne's motivations were clear, to strike at the heart of King's life by destroying the woman he held dear. It was a plan born not only of anger but of a cold and calculated desire to inflict the deepest possible pain. Dwayne's mindset was an intricate weave of emotions. On one hand, he saw himself as an avenger, a man seeking justice for his brother's untimely death. On the other, he was consumed by a darkness that clouded his judgment and drove him to commit acts of manipulation and deceit. To those who knew him, Dwayne presented a facade of normalcy, yet beneath the surface lurked a dangerous determination to carry out his plan, no matter the cost. As Dwayne's intentions crystallized, he set his sights on Mary Jane, weaving himself into her life with a precision that belied his true motives. Each interaction, each gesture of care, was part of a larger scheme to gain her trust, only to betray it in the most devastating way. In Dwayne Ernest Hurst's background, we uncover not only the story of a man driven by revenge but also the chilling reality of how far one might go when consumed by the desire for retribution. His journey from a grieving brother to a calculated perpetrator serves as a cautionary tale of the destructive power of vengeance and the far-reaching consequences it can have on the lives of all those it touches. As we delve deeper into this story, we are left to ponder the complexities of human emotion and the choices that lead one down a path of darkness and despair. How do we reconcile the pain of loss with the need for justice, and at what point does the line between the two become irrevocably blurred? Drop your thoughts in the comments section below. Before we continue, if you find this story impactful, please take a moment to like and share this video. By doing so, you help it reach a wider audience who might benefit from its message. And if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel for more stories that aim to educate and inspire. Your support can make a real difference. The story of Dwayne Ernest Hurst and Mary Jane Collins began in a place as unassuming as any, a bustling shopping mall, where the ordinary and extraordinary often intermingle. Among the throngs of shoppers, their paths crossed unexpectedly, a chance encounter that would set the stage for a tale woven with deceit and hidden intentions. Mary Jane, a devoted mother, was there with her 2 young sons, navigating the aisles with the practiced ease of someone accustomed to the demands of motherhood. Her boys, full of energy and curiosity, found joy in the simplest of things, their laughter a bright thread in the tapestry of everyday life. It was here, amidst the colorful displays and the hum of activity, that Dwayne approached. With a friendly smile and a natural charisma, he engaged Mary Jane in conversation, his easy manner immediately putting her at ease. But it was his interaction with her sons that truly captured her attention. Dwayne played with the boys, their laughter echoing through the mall as they chased around the benches and displays. In those moments, Dwayne seemed to be the kind of person Mary Jane had been hoping to find, a caring individual who could not only connect with her but also embrace her children with genuine warmth. Little did she know, behind his charming facade lay a heart burdened with dark intentions. Over the following weeks, Dwayne began to appear more frequently in Mary Jane's life. He would visit her home, always bringing a small gift or a treat for the boys, gradually weaving himself into the fabric of their daily routine. His presence was soothing, a balm for the stresses of single motherhood. He helped with chores, played games with the kids, and offered a listening ear when Mary Jane needed someone to talk to. His efforts were not in vain. Mary Jane's heart began to soften towards him. The walls she had built, protective barriers against the unpredictability of life, slowly crumbled as Dwayne's apparent kindness and reliability eased her fears. To her, he was becoming more than just a friend, he was a potential partner, someone who might help her build a future filled with stability and love. As the days turned into months, their relationship blossomed into something deeper. They began dating, the bond between them seemingly growing stronger with each passing day. To outsiders, they appeared the picture of happiness, a family unit on the brink of a new beginning. But beneath the surface, a deadly plot was unfolding, known only to Dwayne, whose heart harbored a secret as dark as the night. Every gesture of kindness, every moment shared, was part of a larger scheme, a calculated plan to win Mary Jane's trust and love, all while plotting a revenge that had nothing to do with her and everything to do with the man she once loved, Michael King. In this seemingly perfect relationship, Mary Jane's world was unknowingly inching towards an abyss. The love she thought she had found was a mirage, carefully constructed by a man driven by a vendetta that consumed him. Dwayne's ability to mask his true intentions was as chilling as the plan he was set to execute, a plan that would soon turn their lives upside down. The morning of October 4, 2024, began just like any other for Mary Jane Collins, a 23-year-old mother striving to create a stable life for her 2 young sons. But beneath the surface of her seemingly ordinary day lay a tension that only she and a few close friends could sense. In the weeks leading up to this day, Mary Jane had confided in her friends about the escalating abuse she was enduring from Dwayne Hurst, a man she once believed was a loving partner. She sent them desperate text messages, accompanied by photographs of fresh bruises and bite marks, signs of a more deadly plot unfolding in her life. Dwayne Hurst had woven himself into Mary Jane's life with a purpose far more malicious than anyone could have imagined. This was no ordinary case of domestic violence, it was a cold, calculated act of revenge that had been meticulously planned for months. Hurst's real motive was hidden beneath layers of deceit and manipulation, a vendetta against the father of Mary Jane's children, Michael King, who was serving time for the murder of Hurst's half-brother, Dijon Triplett, 4 years prior. As the morning light filtered through the blinds of her modest apartment in Seabrook, Texas, Mary Jane went about her routine, unaware of the storm that was about to engulf her life. Around 11:15 a.m., a video call was made from the prison where Michael King was incarcerated. This call, intended to maintain a connection between a father and his son, quickly turned into a scene of psychological torment. Dwayne Hurst deliberately positioned himself in the frame, his demeanor shifting from that of a supportive partner to a menacing adversary. "Remember me?" Hearst taunted King, his voice dripping with malice. The chilling confrontation was captured on video, a digital witness to the unfolding horror. In a shocking act of cruelty, Hearst struck King's young son, the sound of the child's cry piercing through the call and sending Mary Jane into a desperate frenzy to protect her child. The call ended abruptly, cutting off the chaos, but the violence within apartment 247 was far from over. By 11:30 a.m., neighbors reported hearing a series of screams followed by a deafening silence. When first responders arrived, they were met with a scene of unspeakable tragedy. Mary Jane Collins lay lifeless, the victim of blunt force trauma and a single, fatal stab wound. The apartment bore signs of a violent struggle: furniture overturned, a coffee table shattered, and a broken phone that lay as a silent testament to her final, unanswered call for help. Amidst the devastation, Mary Jane's two young sons were found huddled together in a closet, following their mother's last instructions to hide and stay quiet. The older boy, barely 9 years old, had shielded his younger brother, whispering comforting words as their world collapsed around them. The murder of Mary Jane Collins was not just a tragic act of violence, but a calculated move in a chilling game of revenge, leaving two innocent children to grapple with the loss of their mother and the betrayal of a man they had come to know. As the investigation unfolded, the community of Seabrook was left to mourn and seek justice for a life taken too soon, a stark reminder of the destructive power of vengeance and the innocent lives it can shatter in its wake. As we explore this complex narrative, a pivotal question arises. Do you believe Charles Hearst was justified in seeking revenge for his half-brother, or was his path of retribution inherently wrong? This question challenges us to consider the motivations behind revenge and the consequences that follow. We invite you to share your perspective in the comments below. Whether you see Hearst's actions as a misguided attempt at justice or an unforgivable transgression, your voice is vital in this dialogue. Engage with us and others in this community to explore the nuances of justice, revenge, and morality. In the aftermath of the brutal murder of Mary Jane Collins, the Seabrook Police Department launched a thorough investigation, determined to bring justice for a young mother whose life was tragically cut short. The case quickly unfolded into a complex web of deception and revenge, requiring meticulous work from detectives and forensic experts to unravel the truth behind the chilling crime. From the moment first responders arrived at the Teakwood apartment complex, it was clear that this was no ordinary case of domestic violence. The scene inside Mary Jane's apartment was a testament to the violence that had transpired. Forensic teams scoured every inch of the space, collecting crucial evidence that would later prove vital in piecing together the events of that fateful day. As investigators combed through the apartment, they found signs of a fierce struggle: overturned furniture, shattered glass, and bloodstains marking the path of a desperate fight for survival. But it was the digital evidence that would provide the most compelling insights into the killer's identity and motives. Among the most significant pieces of evidence was the video call footage, a chilling record of the confrontation between Dwayne Hearst and Michael King. This footage captured not only Hearst's violent actions towards King's son but also his taunting words, revealing his deep-seated vendetta. Detectives interviewed key witnesses, including neighbors who had heard the commotion and friends who had received Mary Jane's desperate messages in the days leading up to her death. These interviews painted a picture of a woman living in fear, trapped in a relationship with a man who had meticulously planned to use her as a pawn in his quest for revenge. The investigation also delved into Hearst's digital footprint, uncovering months of planning and surveillance. Investigators discovered that Hearst had monitored Mary Jane's online activity through fake social media accounts, tracking her movements and interactions. He had even gone so far as to research her daily routines and personal connections, all in preparation for his calculated strike. The breakthrough in the case came with the combination of digital forensics and the video call evidence. The call, which had initially been dismissed as a domestic dispute, was now seen as pivotal in identifying Hearst as the perpetrator. His presence in the apartment during the call, coupled with the physical evidence of his DNA throughout the crime scene, painted an undeniable picture of guilt. As the net closed in on Dwayne Hurst, authorities learned that he was attempting to flee the country. For 3 weeks, he had managed to evade capture, using cash to stay off the grid and moving between locations to avoid detection. But his attempts to escape justice were ultimately thwarted by a tip-off that led police to a motel room in Texas City. In a swift and coordinated operation, law enforcement officers surrounded the motel, preparing to arrest Hurst. Inside the room, they found him packing belongings, including fake identification documents and a significant amount of cash, clear signs of his intent to disappear. The arrest was executed without incident, bringing an end to Hurst's flight from justice. In the days following his capture, Hurst was charged with first-degree murder, aggravated assault, and multiple counts of child endangerment. The evidence against him was overwhelming, a testament to the relentless efforts of law enforcement to seek justice for Mary Jane Collins and her family. The investigation into Mary Jane's murder not only highlighted the power of modern forensic analysis and digital evidence but also underscored the dedication of those who work tirelessly to bring a killer to justice. As the case moved towards trial, the community of Seabrook remained united in their resolve to ensure that Mary Jane's tragic story would not be forgotten, serving as a sobering reminder of the far-reaching consequences of revenge and violence. The murder of Mary Jane Collins profoundly impacted her family and the Seabrook community. Her family faced immense emotional and psychological challenges, especially her 2 young sons, who had witnessed the tragedy. Her grandmother became their guardian, providing stability and care. The older son struggled with anxiety, while the younger developed attachment issues, both requiring extensive support to heal. The community mourned deeply, holding vigils to honor Mary Jane and support her family. Her death became a rallying point for preventing future tragedies, leading to advocacy efforts and reforms focused on domestic violence and revenge-motivated crimes. Local advocacy groups heightened awareness about abusive relationships and pushed for legislative reforms to protect vulnerable individuals, particularly single parents. Improved monitoring of prison communications was proposed to prevent their misuse. Additionally, specialized programs were developed to support children who witness domestic violence, and schools implemented mental health resources. Mary Jane's story inspired change, emphasizing the need for collective action against violence. Her legacy continues to drive efforts to recognize and address hidden dangers in relationships, ensuring her death was not in vain. Mary Jane Collins' story highlights the profound impact of revenge and domestic violence on society. These acts affect victims, families, and communities, showing the destructive power of unchecked emotions. Preventing such tragedies requires recognizing warning signs of abuse and intervening early. Educating ourselves and others on these signs is crucial to providing victims with necessary support. Empathy is key in this effort. By fostering understanding and compassion, we encourage open dialogue about domestic violence, breaking down silence and stigma. This leads to more proactive protection for those at risk. The lessons from Mary Jane's story emphasize vigilance and kindness. By being attentive and empathetic, we can help prevent future tragedies and create a safe, supportive community. As we reflect on Mary Jane Collins' story, let us ask ourselves, how can we work together to break cycles of violence and protect the most vulnerable among us? This call to action urges us to unite in preventing violence, fostering empathy, and ensuring safety for all. If Mary Jane Collins' story resonated with you, please like and share this video. By doing so, you help bring attention to stories that need to be heard and might offer help to someone in need. Don't forget to subscribe for more content that aims to inform and inspire action. Together, we can make a difference.
I'm Jeremy Williams, and this is Amiri Williams.
I'm Tierra Williams.
At just 21 years old, Tiara Nia Williams seemed to have it all. A thriving entrepreneur, a devoted mother, and a loving wife. She was a beacon of success and ambition. She had built her daycare business from the ground up, creating a nurturing environment that was beloved by the families she served. Her 10-month-old daughter, Amiri, was the light of her life, and her family and friends admired her for her dedication, hard work, and unwavering love. Tiara was not just an entrepreneur. She was a woman who deeply cared about her community, her family, and her future. But on the morning of June 5, 2022, in the small town of Franklin, Kentucky, everything changed in an instant. In the quiet hours before dawn, neighbors on Patton Road were abruptly awakened by the sound of gunshots ringing out. The peaceful morning was shattered, and what would unfold would leave an entire community in shock and disbelief. By 6:30 a.m., when police arrived at the scene, they were met with a tragedy that would forever alter the lives of those who knew Tiara. Inside her home, Tiara Williams was found lifeless, shot multiple times by her husband, Jeremy Williams. What was once a picture-perfect marriage filled with love and shared dreams had descended into a devastating tragedy. Driven by deep-seated jealousy over Tiara's success and fueled by his own insecurities, Jeremy made a decision that would have irreversible consequences. After taking the life of the woman he was meant to love and support, he fled the scene, leaving behind a broken family and a destroyed future. Hours later, Jeremy's life would come to a tragic end on Interstate 65, where he was found dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound, his life also claimed by the very jealousy that had torn his family apart. This isn't just another headline, it's the story of how unchecked jealousy, insecurities, and entitlement can rip apart lives in the blink of an eye. Tiara's life, filled with promise, ambition, and love, was tragically cut short by the man who should have been her greatest ally. This is the story of a woman who worked tirelessly, loved unconditionally, and deserved far more than what fate had in store for her. A story about the dangers of emotional manipulation, possessiveness, and the dark side of human relationships. In this documentary, we'll take a closer look at Tiara's life and the events that led to her untimely death. But this is more than just a single tragedy. Tiara's story is a heartbreaking reflection of a much larger issue, one that affects countless lives every year. We'll uncover warning signs that often go unnoticed, signs that can be the difference between life and death. Together, we'll learn the vital lessons that could help prevent future tragedies like this one, and hopefully save lives in the process. Before we continue with Tiara's story, take a moment to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. This channel is dedicated to bringing you important stories that need to be heard, and your support helps us reach more people who might benefit from these crucial conversations. So please like this video and share to your contacts and groups. If you've ever witnessed controlling behavior in a relationship, whether in your own life or someone else's, share your experience in the comments below. What warning signs did you notice? Your insight could help others recognize similar patterns in their own lives. Now, let's delve into Tiara's early life and discover how a young woman from Lexington, Kentucky, built her dreams into reality, only to have them shattered by jealousy and control. Tiara Nikia Williams, born on August 23, 2000 in the heart of Lexington, Kentucky, was the youngest of 12 children, a girl surrounded by a chorus of voices, each offering their own version of guidance, wisdom, and love. Her parents, Terry Prince and Leisha MCC, had created a home filled with warmth and joy. Tiara's childhood was a testament to the strength and unity of family. The Williams family wasn't just a unit, it was a force, a tightly knit community that held each other up against the world. And at the center of it all was Tiara, her mother's pride, her siblings' protector, and a beacon of energy that lit up every room she entered. From a young age, Tiara stood out. Her natural leadership abilities were evident in the way she carried herself, the way she inspired those around her. She wasn't just another child in a large family, she was the one who pushed forward, the one who believed that no dream was too big. Her personality was vibrant, her presence commanding, but what made Tiara truly exceptional was her ability to balance strength with kindness. She was loved, not just by her family but by anyone who crossed her path. Friends and relatives spoke of her like she was a force of nature, someone whose light could never be dimmed, whose dreams could never be crushed. In a family of 12, each sibling had their own unique role, their own place in the world, but Tiara was a glue that held it all together. Her bond with her mother, Lakeisha, was unbreakable. They shared more than a mother-daughter relationship. They were best friends, confidants who shared everything, joy, heartache, dreams, and fears. Lakeisha often reminisced about the days when Tiara would sit by her side, talking about her goals, her future, the life she was building.
Me and my daughter had a relationship, not just a mom and daughter relationship. but we were friends. Really close friends.
She wasn't just a daughter, she was an extension of Lakeisha's own heart, a living manifestation of her dreams for her family. But Tiara's connection with her siblings wasn't just limited to the bond of family. Her sister, Tiana, looked up to her not just as an older sibling but as a role model, someone whose every move was worth following.
And I honestly believe that. Like, she was sitting here for a reason. She's goofy. She jokes around a lot. I don't know. Tiara was my best friend. She was my role model, per se. I always looked up to her.
The family wasn't just a group of people living in the same house. It was a network of support, of encouragement, a unit that propelled each member to greater heights. And Tiara, with her drive and ambition, was the shining example of that upward momentum. As Tiara entered her teenage years, her extraordinary talents began to flourish. She attended Franklin Simpson High School, where she not only excelled academically but also thrived in extracurricular activities. Cheerleading, dance, track, Tiara gave it her all. No challenge was too daunting for her, no sport too difficult. She didn't just participate, she excelled. She didn't just aim for the top, she ensured she reached it. Every practice, every performance, every competition, Tiara poured herself into her work, earning admiration from her peers and coaches alike. And though she was an exceptional athlete, it wasn't just her physical prowess that set her apart. It was her relentless commitment, her work ethic that left an imprint on everyone around her. Beyond the sports fields and classrooms, Tiara's faith was the cornerstone of her identity. A deeply spiritual young woman, she was a devoted member of Harvester Warehouse Pentecostal Church in Franklin, Kentucky. Her voice, strong and full of grace, was a fixture in the praise and worship team. It wasn't just about singing hymns, it was about pouring her heart into her faith, lifting others with the strength of her spirit. Her church community loved her, not just for her voice but for the way she made people feel. She wasn't just a member of the team, she was the heart and soul of it, her passion for her faith igniting those around her. But even with all her achievements, Tiara was never one to boast. She was humble, her accomplishments never self-aggrandizing. She saw her success not as a result of luck but of hard work, dedication, and love. That was the Tiara that everyone knew, someone who didn't just strive for success for herself but who carried the weight of her entire family on her shoulders. She wasn't simply achieving for her own benefit. She was laying the groundwork for the future of everyone she loved. After graduating high school, Tiara's journey took an unexpected but not entirely surprising turn. With her sharp mind and caring nature, she initially pursued a career in dental school. It was a natural choice, a safe, stable path that aligned with her desire to help others and build a future. But even as she began her studies, Tiara's true passion began to emerge. A love for children, a deep understanding of their needs, a desire to shape their futures with care and nurturing. So, instead of following the traditional route of dental school, Tiara made a bold decision. She left her studies behind and, following her heart, founded T&J's Daycare. It wasn't just a business for Tiara, it was a calling. She saw the need for quality child care in her community, where parents were working long hours and struggling to find a safe and enriching environment for their children. She poured everything she had into the daycare, from the business logistics to the emotional energy required to create a space where children could grow, learn, and thrive. She wasn't just a business owner, she was a community builder, a woman who understood the vital role of early education and child development. Under her leadership, T&J's Daycare flourished, quickly becoming a cornerstone of the local community. Parents praised Tiara for her innovative approach to child care, for the way she made each child feel seen and loved. Her reputation as a devoted mother and an extraordinary caregiver spread, and her business grew rapidly, expanding far beyond what Tiara had ever imagined. What Tiara didn't know, though, was that this success, this thriving business that she had built with her own hands, would become the very thing that would tear her life apart. As her business flourished, so did the cracks in her personal life, cracks that were invisible to most, but that would ultimately lead to the tragedy that no one saw coming. But before we get to that dark and heartbreaking moment, we need to understand who Tiara really was. To understand what was lost. She wasn't just a woman, a mother, or a business owner. She was a symbol of possibility, of hope, of love that knew no boundaries. She had the world at her feet, a future that gleamed with promise. And that promise was taken from her far too soon. As we move forward in this documentary, we'll explore not only Tiara's life but also the ripple effect of her death, the devastation it caused, the lives it shattered, and the lessons we can all learn from her tragic story. This is more than just a tale of one woman's life cut short. It's a powerful reminder of the dangers that lurk beneath the surface of seemingly perfect relationships, the darkness that can creep in when jealousy and insecurity go unchecked. Stay with us as we continue to unravel the heart-wrenching events that led to the untimely loss of Tiara Williams, and as we examine how we might prevent such tragedies in the future. Through her story, we will uncover crucial lessons that could save lives and change the way we view unhealthy relationships forever. It began like many relationships do, an undeniable connection, a spark between two people who seemed destined to meet. Tiara first met 25-year-old Jeremy Williams in late 2017. At first glance, he seemed like the perfect match for her. Jeremy, with his smooth charm and seemingly unwavering support for her dreams, made Tiara feel seen, valued, and adored. For Tiara, it felt like a fairy tale, a love story with a partner who would stand beside her, encouraging her every step of the way. In the early days of their relationship, Jeremy was everything Tiara needed. He expressed admiration for her ambition, her entrepreneurial spirit, and her fierce dedication to her family. They quickly became inseparable, moving through life's milestones with a sense of shared purpose. When their courtship moved swiftly, it seemed only natural. The couple made plans, built dreams, and with each passing day, Tiara became more and more confident that she had found someone who would truly support her. Jeremy was her partner in everything, someone who celebrated her successes without hesitation, or so it appeared. By September 2018, their love story took its next step: marriage. The wedding was everything Tiara had hoped for and more. She radiated happiness as she stood at the altar, her smile lighting up the entire room, her eyes locked with Jeremy's in a shared moment of pure joy. The vows they exchanged promised forever, and Tiara felt certain that the future was bright. Their wedding was a beautiful celebration, surrounded by friends, family, and loved ones, all of whom watched in awe as Tiara and Jeremy embarked on this new chapter together. Social media posts from the event were filled with hashtags, photos, and glowing captions, painting a picture of a life full of love, success, and happiness. In that moment, it seemed as though there was nothing that could stand in the way of their perfect life. But beneath the surface, something began to shift. The initial harmony that once characterized their relationship started to crack, slowly and quietly at first. As Tiara's daycare business grew and flourished, so did the undercurrent of tension that Jeremy seemed to harbor. It wasn't obvious at first, just subtle signs that something wasn't quite right. But those who knew Tiara well began to notice. Jeremy's initial support began to turn into something darker: jealousy. It wasn't just a fleeting emotion, it was an overwhelming force that seemed to take hold of him. As Tiara's business success continued to skyrocket, Jeremy's insecurity grew. What was once admiration for her accomplishments soon turned into resentment. He couldn't stand to see her receive praise for her work, especially when it came from people outside of their shared circle. Her achievements, which had once been a source of pride for both of them, now seemed to trigger something deeper in Jeremy, something that had been festering beneath the surface. The praise, the attention, the recognition, all of it began to feel like a threat to him, a threat to his place in her life. Friends who had once seen Jeremy as the supportive partner began to notice the subtle changes in his behavior. He was no longer the man who stood proudly by Tiara's side at every event, every celebration. Instead, he became distant, uncomfortable in social situations where Tiara was the center of attention. His eyes would narrow whenever someone complimented her, and his smile became strained, as if he were putting on a facade. For Tiara, this was the first real sign that something had shifted. She had always been confident in herself and her abilities, but now she began to question her every move. The warmth she once felt in their shared moments was beginning to fade, replaced by an unease that crept into every interaction. As the months went on, the tension between them grew. Jeremy's jealousy didn't just stay in the background, it became impossible to ignore. What had once been a gentle breeze of insecurity turned into a storm of possessiveness. He questioned almost everything about her, the hours she spent nurturing her business, despite knowing how crucial they were to its success. He began to monitor her interactions with daycare parents, accusing her of being too friendly with the male clients. The accusations were baseless, but they became more frequent, more intense, as if he was searching for reasons to distrust her. It wasn't just about her success anymore, it was about control. What started as an innocent comment here and there turned into constant scrutiny, into a never-ending cycle of suspicion. Tiara tried to explain, tried to reassure him that her commitment to their marriage and their family had never wavered, but it didn't matter. Jeremy's jealousy was a monster that couldn't be appeased. The more Tiara worked to address his concerns, the more they seemed to spiral out of control. Her confidence, once a defining feature, began to erode. Friends who had once admired Tiara's boldness now saw her retreat into herself. She became more reserved, quieter in social settings, her vibrant personality dimming under the weight of Jeremy's growing emotional control. It was as though she had to walk on eggshells, always careful not to provoke his insecurities, always striving to maintain the delicate balance of their marriage. The woman who once walked with her head held high now found herself second-guessing every move she made. The toxic atmosphere at home was palpable, a constant undercurrent of tension that couldn't be ignored. But Tiara, ever the strong woman, didn't give up. She continued to run her daycare with the same passion and dedication, refusing to let her personal struggles affect the children she cared for so deeply. She continued to love her daughter, to cherish her family, but inside, a quiet storm was raging, one that she was desperately trying to keep under control. What Tiara didn't know, however, was that the storm was only just beginning. The cracks in her marriage were deepening, and soon, they would be impossible to repair. The love she had once shared with Jeremy was slowly being overtaken by something darker, something that would ultimately lead to a tragedy no one saw coming. As we reflect on the escalating tension in Tiara and Jeremy's relationship, it's impossible to ignore the subtle yet powerful warning signs that began to emerge. What would you do if you noticed your partner starting to display some questionable behaviors like jealousy, control, or possessiveness, behaviors that could lead to something much darker, even domestic violence? Would you stay and try to sort things out, hoping that things would improve with time and communication? Or would you leave the relationship, knowing that the pattern of controlling behavior was a red flag for something much worse? We want to hear from you. What would you do in that situation? Share your answer in the comments below. Your perspective could help others who might be struggling with similar challenges, and together we can learn how to recognize these warning signs before they escalate. The day before the tragedy was like any other. June 4, 2022, began with the sun rising over Franklin, Kentucky, casting a soft, golden light on the small town. The Williams family appeared to be enjoying a peaceful evening. Tiara was, as always, juggling the demands of her growing daycare business while trying to give her young daughter, Amiri, the love and attention she deserved. Her day had been filled with moments of joy, laughter with her daughter, phone calls with parents who trusted her to care for their children, and the usual hustle of managing a thriving business. For Tiara, life was a delicate balance, but it was a balance she had mastered over the years. Amiri, her 10-month-old daughter, was a constant reminder of what Tiara worked for, the reason she woke up each day with purpose, determination, and hope for the future. Tiara had always dreamed of being a great mother, a provider, and an inspiration. In the soft light of the evening, with Amiri nestled close to her, Tiara looked like any other young mother, full of love, full of life, full of promise. But beneath the surface, the tension that had been building in her marriage was beginning to fester, and on that quiet Sunday evening, neither Tiara nor anyone else could have predicted the horror that would unfold just hours later. As the night went on, the couple seemed to settle into what had become their routine. Tiara preparing for another busy week at the daycare, Jeremy seemingly quiet but present. Yet, the silence between them wasn't filled with peace, it was filled with something more ominous. The growing rift between them had begun to consume their home, yet Tiara, ever the optimist, continued on as though everything was fine. She had no choice but to keep moving forward, for Amiri, for her business, and for herself. But as dawn broke on June 5, 2022, everything changed. The serenity of the early morning was shattered by the unmistakable sound of gunshots, loud, rapid, echoing through the quiet neighborhood of Patton Road. At approximately 6:30 a.m., the peaceful air was replaced with the terror of a community torn apart. Neighbors, groggy from sleep, were abruptly awakened, their minds racing to comprehend what they had just heard. Within moments, frantic calls to 911 flooded the lines. Gunshots, coming from the Williams house, one caller said, their voice trembling with disbelief. Police arrived at the scene just minutes later, their hearts heavy with the weight of what they knew they might find. What greeted them in that quiet home, where only hours before a young mother had been caring for her child, was a scene that would haunt the community for years to come. Tiara Williams, the young entrepreneur who had built her business from the ground up, lay lifeless in her home. She had been shot multiple times, her life snatched away by the man who had promised to love and protect her. The brutality of the act was incomprehensible, and the questions began to swirl. How could this happen? How could a loving husband, a man who had once supported his wife's ambitions, turn into someone capable of taking her life? The police immediately began their investigation, but the answers would not come easily. Jeremy Williams, Tiara's husband, had fled the scene, leaving behind a trail of confusion and disbelief. Authorities quickly launched a manhunt to locate Jeremy. They knew the situation was dire. As the search intensified, there was a chilling realization that the tragedy was far from over. Hours later, at a distance from the Williams home, authorities discovered Jeremy's vehicle on Interstate 65, just outside Franklin. Inside the car, they found him, dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The man who had once vowed to protect Tiara, the man who had once been her partner in building a future together, had ended his life, leaving behind a trail of destruction, heartbreak, and unanswered questions. The shock and devastation of the murder-suicide reverberated throughout Franklin, Kentucky. The news spread quickly, sending waves of disbelief through the tight-knit community. The vibrant young woman who had built her dreams on love, hard work, and dedication was gone. The mother who had nurtured her daughter, the businesswoman who had poured her heart into creating a safe space for children, and the woman who had brought light to her community was no more. Tiara's family was left reeling, struggling to comprehend how this tragedy could have occurred. Her mother, Lakeisha MCC, had lost not just her daughter but her best friend. The pain was overwhelming. Lakeisha, who had been so proud of Tiara's accomplishments, now had to come to terms with the unfathomable loss of her child. Tiara's father, Terry Prince, too, was at a loss for words. His daughter had been a shining light in his life, and now that light was extinguished. The most heartbreaking aspect was the fate of their 10-month-old daughter Amiri, who was now left without both parents. The pain wasn't limited to her immediate family. Tiara had been a beloved figure in her community. Her daycare had touched the lives of so many families. Parents who had entrusted Tiara with their children were devastated by the loss. They had seen firsthand her commitment, her love for the children she cared for, and the dedication she had shown to every family that walked through her doors. The daycare wasn't just a business to Tiara. It was a part of her, and in losing her, the community lost more than just a businesswoman. They lost a part of their fabric. Tiara's church family, too, was shaken to its core. Tiara had been an active member of the praise and worship team at Harvester Warehouse Pentecostal Church, where her voice had once lifted the spirits of the congregation. The church community, who had watched Tiara grow into a young woman of faith and service, now mourned the loss of someone who had been so integral to their lives. The murder-suicide sent shockwaves through Franklin, Kentucky, but it also served as a stark reminder of the dangers lurking in even the most seemingly perfect of relationships. Tiara's death wasn't just a tragic loss for her family, it was a wake-up call to a much larger, darker reality that far too many people are forced to face. The whispers of jealousy, insecurity, and control that had quietly festered beneath the surface of Tiara and Jeremy's marriage now became all too clear. What had once seemed like a perfect love story had unraveled into a nightmare, one that would change the course of their lives forever. As the dust began to settle in the wake of this tragedy, the community was left with more questions than answers. How had things gone so terribly wrong? What signs had been missed? And most heartbreakingly, what could have been done to prevent this loss of a vibrant, promising life? In the wake of Tiara's tragic death, it's impossible to ignore the red flags that were present long before the final, irreversible act. The warning signs of controlling behavior, often dismissed or overlooked, are critical to recognize, especially when they emerge early in a relationship. For Tiara, these signs were subtle at first. A jealous glance, a questioning comment, a whispered concern about her late hours at work. But over time, these small instances snowballed into an environment of emotional manipulation, where her every action was scrutinized, and her every success was met with discomfort. One of the earliest warning signs of controlling behavior is jealousy. Jealousy may seem harmless in the beginning, like a natural reaction to a partner's interactions with others. But when it crosses the line into constant questioning or baseless accusations, it becomes something much darker. Jeremy's suspicions about Tiara's interactions with daycare parents, specifically male clients, were not based on any real evidence, yet they were persistent and intense. These accusations, though unfounded, created a space where Tiara was constantly on edge, forced to explain herself in ways that eroded her self-confidence. Another sign of controlling behavior is discomfort with a partner's success, especially when it makes the other person feel threatened. Tiara's business success, her ability to juggle a thriving daycare business with being a loving mother, should have been a source of pride for Jeremy. Instead, her accomplishments became a point of contention. Rather than celebrate her achievements, he resented them. He felt overshadowed by her success, and instead of supporting her, he began to view her as a rival. His jealousy was no longer limited to interactions with other people. It was aimed at the very essence of who Tiara was, her independence, her strength, and her ability to thrive in ways he couldn't. As Tiara's business grew, so did the tension in her marriage. Every moment of praise, every new milestone, was met with Jeremy's discomfort. He became possessive of her time and attention, questioning her motivations, even when she had done nothing wrong. These early signs of jealousy and control, if recognized and addressed, could have been the difference between life and death. But Tiara, like many victims of controlling relationships, tried to manage the situation, to placate her partner and keep the peace. She reassured him, tried to explain, but in doing so, she unknowingly allowed the cycle of control to tighten its grip. This is where early intervention becomes so crucial. The sooner controlling behaviors are recognized, the better chance there is to intervene before things escalate to violence. Domestic abuse, whether physical or emotional, doesn't happen overnight. It builds piece by piece, often in the form of subtle manipulations that only those closest to the victim can notice. And too often, these behaviors are dismissed as just jealousy or a lover's concern. But the truth is, these are the early stages of a much more dangerous pattern. If left unchecked, they can escalate into physical violence, emotional destruction, and, as we saw in Tiara's case, tragic loss. The key to early intervention is education. We must teach people, especially young women and men, what healthy relationships look like. We must emphasize that jealousy is not love, and control is not care. We must encourage open communication and trust building in relationships, while also making it clear that emotional abuse is just as harmful as physical abuse. Recognizing these behaviors early can save lives, prevent suffering, and ultimately stop the cycle of violence before it starts. But education alone isn't enough. Cultural norms around possessiveness and control need to be challenged on a broader scale. For too long, society has normalized certain behaviors in relationships, labeling them as passion or protectiveness. These cultural narratives have enabled toxic behavior to go unchecked, often leaving victims feeling trapped, isolated, and without the tools to recognize or escape from abusive situations. The idea that a partner should control another's actions, decisions, or even success is not love. It's manipulation, and it must be called out. There is also a desperate need for better resources and support systems for those in toxic relationships. Too many victims suffer in silence, unsure of where to turn or who to trust. Shelters, counseling services, and helplines are often underfunded and overburdened, leaving many individuals feeling abandoned by the very systems meant to protect them. Communities must step up and provide the necessary resources, whether through local support groups, mental health professionals, or public awareness campaigns, to give those in dangerous situations a lifeline. The reality is, if Tiara had had access to the right support or been able to recognize the signs early enough, her fate might have been different. But without the tools, resources, or education, she was left to navigate a volatile and dangerous relationship on her own. In many ways, Tiara's story is a reflection of a larger, systemic issue, an issue that affects countless women and men every day. But through Tiara's legacy, we have the opportunity to change the narrative. We can use her tragic death as a catalyst for change, to open conversations about unhealthy relationships, to challenge the cultural norms that enable possessiveness and control, and to ensure that victims of emotional and physical abuse are given the help they need before it's too late. As we reflect on Tiara's heartbreaking story, it's clear that the warning signs of controlling behavior can often be difficult to recognize until it's too late. Have you ever noticed behaviors in a relationship that seemed harmless at first but later made you feel uncomfortable? Do you know someone who has experienced jealousy or possessiveness in their relationship, even when there was no reason for suspicion? What about the times when someone's success or accomplishments were met with discomfort or resentment from their partner? Did it make you pause and wonder about the dynamics in that relationship? Have you or someone close to you been questioned repeatedly about your whereabouts or the people you interact with? What impact did that have on your sense of trust and independence? It's important to talk about these warning signs, and your voice could make a difference. Share your experiences in the comments below, whether it's something you've witnessed in your own life or the life of someone you care about. Your story could help others recognize similar patterns and take action before it's too late. Tiara's story teaches us some vital lessons, but we want to hear from you. What have you learned from her story? What advice would you give to someone who might be going through something similar? Your thoughts might provide the insight that someone else needs to hear. Let's come together to raise awareness, share our experiences, and help others learn from what we've seen. Your engagement could save a life. Tiara's death left a void that could never truly be filled. Her impact on her community, through her daycare, her church, and her family, continues to resonate. As a mother, entrepreneur, and community member, Tiara inspired countless others, especially young mothers and women entrepreneurs, to chase their dreams with resilience and dedication. Her legacy lives on in the children she nurtured, the family she supported, and the example she set. Even in her absence, her story continues to inspire, reminding us of the importance of love, ambition, and community. We encourage you to share your thoughts and experiences on recognizing unhealthy behaviors in relationships. Your voice could help others avoid the same fate. Let's also support initiatives aimed at preventing domestic violence and empowering women in business. Tiara's story can be a catalyst for change, but only if we act together. Tiara's story is a heartbreaking reminder of how unchecked jealousy and controlling behavior can destroy lives. As we continue to honor her memory, it's crucial that we focus on prevention, recognizing the signs of emotional abuse before they turn fatal. By learning from Tiara's story in similar cases, we can work to stop domestic violence in its tracks and help others recognize unhealthy patterns before it's too late. Tiara's legacy lives on through her family, her community, and the lessons learned from her tragic end. If Tiara's story has impacted you, please like and share this video to raise awareness and help others recognize the warning signs in their relationships. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more important content that can make a difference. Together, we can break the silence and create a safer future for all.
What happens when a child's innocence is shattered by a brutal crime? In a world where laughter and play should reign, one little girl's life was cruelly interrupted, leaving an indelible mark on her family, her community, and indeed, the nation. Meet Jessica Lunsford, a bright, spirited 9-year-old girl with dreams as vast as the sky. Known for her infectious smile, Jessica was the type of child who could light up a room, her laughter echoing like a sweet melody in the hearts of those around her. She loved to dance, to sing, and to explore the world through the innocent eyes of childhood. But on that fateful day in February 2005, her world would take a terrifying turn. On the morning of February 24th, Jessica was playing in the safety of her neighborhood in Homosassa, Florida, a place that should have felt like a sanctuary. But as the sun rose high in the sky, casting warm beams over the quiet streets, a predator lurked in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. In a heartbeat, Jessica was gone, abducted from the very home she had known and loved. What transpired next was a chilling tale of horror, one that would reveal the depths of human depravity and the fragility of trust. As law enforcement scrambled to piece together the fragments of her disappearance, questions began to swirl. Who was responsible for this heinous act? What dark motivations drove a man to snatch away the life of an innocent child? Welcome to True Crime Tales HQ. I sincerely thank you, my esteemed viewers, most especially my subscribers, for your endless support. Please don't forget to subscribe if you are yet to subscribe to this channel. As we delve deeper into the layers of this tragic story, we will uncover not only the grim details of Jessica's abduction and murder but also the lasting impact it had on her family and community. Join us as we seek to understand the events that led to this unimaginable tragedy and reflect on the lessons learned in its wake. Jessica Lunsford was not just a name in the headlines, she was a vibrant soul, a beloved daughter, a cherished friend, and a bright spark in the lives of those who knew her. Born on the 6th of April 1995, Jessica grew up in a close-knit family in Homosassa, Florida, where the sun-drenched streets and towering oak trees formed the backdrop for her childhood adventures. Her family, comprised of her father, Mark, her mother, Angela, and her younger brother, was the foundation of her world. They shared an unbreakable bond, filled with laughter, love, and the everyday joys of life. Mark often recalls how Jessica would curl up next to him on the couch, her head resting on his shoulder as they watched cartoons together. He remembers her giggles echoing through their home, a sound that brought warmth to even the coldest of days. Angela, a nurturing mother, recalls how Jessica would help her bake cookies, her small hands dusted with flour, eagerly waiting to taste the sweet treats they created. Jessica was a spirited child, full of life and curiosity. She had an infectious enthusiasm for everything she did, whether it was dancing to her favorite songs in the living room, spending afternoons drawing colorful pictures, or exploring the nearby woods, where her imagination ran wild. Friends would often gather at her house for playdates, their laughter reverberating through the air as they created unforgettable memories together. Jessica had a knack for bringing people together, a natural ability to make everyone feel included and loved. One of her fondest hobbies was dancing. With dreams of twirling on stage, she took ballet classes, her eyes sparkling with passion as she practiced her pirouettes. She loved to dress up in her beautiful tutu, spinning and leaping with grace, embodying the very essence of childhood joy. Her dance teacher often described her as a natural, a shining star who radiated joy and energy. Even at a young age, Jessica had aspirations of performing in front of an audience, her heart set on captivating others with her talent and light. But it wasn't just her talents that made her special, it was her kindness and compassion. Jessica was the type of child who would go out of her way to help others. Friends and family remember her as a little girl with a big heart, always ready to lend a hand or offer a comforting hug. One neighbor recounted a time when Jessica spotted a stray cat wandering in the street. Without hesitation, she gently coaxed the frightened animal into her arms, promising to take care of it. It was moments like these that revealed the depth of her empathy, a trait not often seen in children her age. Despite her tender age, Jessica was wise beyond her years. She had dreams of becoming a veterinarian, a desire fueled by her love for animals and her innate nurturing spirit. She often spent weekends volunteering at the local animal shelter, where she would cuddle puppies and help care for abandoned cats, her heart swelling with joy as she made a difference in their lives. Her family often remarked that Jessica had a special connection with animals, as if they could sense her warmth and kindness. Jessica's relatability stemmed from her authenticity. She was a typical 9-year-old, filled with hopes and dreams, sometimes afraid of the dark, yet bursting with a sense of wonder about the world. She loved to ride her bike around the neighborhood, her laughter trailing behind her like a melody. She would often invite her friends to join her, racing down the street, their joy weaving a tapestry of friendship and adventure. As we reflect on Jessica's life, it becomes clear that she was not just a victim, she was a vibrant, loving child with a bright future ahead of her. Her story resonates with every parent, every sibling, and every friend who has loved a child just as fiercely. The loss of her innocent laughter and dreams serves as a haunting reminder of the fragility of life and the importance of cherishing every moment. Jessica Lunsford's life was a beautiful testament to the joys of childhood. Her spirit, much like a flickering candle, illuminated the hearts of those around her, leaving a legacy that would forever be remembered. As we delve deeper into the events of her tragic abduction, we must carry her memory forward, a reminder of the innocence that was so cruelly taken from her and the love that continues to echo in the hearts of her family and friends. To grasp the depths of the tragedy that unfolded, we must confront the chilling figure of John Cooey, a man whose life was filled with violence, neglect, and darkness. Born on March 19, 1969, Cooey's journey began in a troubled household, where instability and dysfunction were the norm. His childhood was marked by emotional trauma, growing up in an environment that failed to nurture or protect him, leaving scars that would shape his future in unimaginable ways. As he transitioned into adulthood, Cooey's life was characterized not by hopes and dreams, but by a series of criminal offenses. His early years were punctuated by burglaries and petty crimes, but it was a far more sinister act that would forever alter the course of his life. In 1993, he was convicted of sexual battery against a child, a crime that should have sounded alarm bells within the justice system. Yet, the laws of the time allowed him to serve only a brief sentence, returning him to society with minimal oversight. Cooey's release from prison should have been a warning sign, a harbinger of the dangers he posed, but instead, it was a missed opportunity for intervention. He became a ghost among us, a man with a long and troubling history, living within mere yards of children, including Jessica Lunsford. As a registered sex offender, he was required to report his whereabouts, yet he slipped through the cracks of a system ill-equipped to handle individuals like him. His record was a patchwork of arrests, with each offense seemingly forgotten in the wake of his release, allowing him to blend into the community, a wolf in sheep's clothing, waiting for the right moment to strike. Psychologically, Cooey was a complex and deeply troubled individual. Experts who have studied his case often point to traits commonly found in violent offenders: a profound lack of empathy, impulsivity, and a tendency to view the world through a distorted lens. Cooey's antisocial behavior manifested in his interactions, where he exhibited a chilling detachment from the emotional lives of others. Friends and acquaintances described him as socially awkward, often avoiding eye contact and struggling to engage in normal conversations. This disconnection fueled a growing resentment toward society, a festering anger that would eventually erupt in the most horrific manner. Substance abuse played a significant role in Cooey's downward spiral. He battled addiction to alcohol and drugs, with substances acting as both a crutch and a catalyst for his violent tendencies. The drugs dulled his senses, warping his already fragile grasp on reality. Friends recounted stories of erratic behavior during these episodes, where the lines between right and wrong blurred, and impulse ruled his actions. It was during one of these dark moments that he would commit the unthinkable act against Jessica. As we examine the societal context of sex offenders in Florida during the early 2000s, we find a landscape fraught with fear and confusion. The state had been grappling with a rising tide of concern regarding child safety, particularly following several high-profile abductions and murders. Communities were on high alert, and the public demanded action. Yet, despite the clamor for justice, the systems in place were inadequate, often failing to protect the most vulnerable among us. The laws that governed sex offenders allowed for repeated offenses, with many released back into society without the necessary monitoring or support. The case of Jessica Lunsford would ultimately shine a spotlight on these systemic failures, prompting a national conversation about the need for reform. But at this moment, we must confront the reality of John Cooey, a man whose life was a series of missed opportunities for intervention, whose choices were driven by a darkness that would lead to the destruction of an innocent child. As we reflect on his background, we are left with a haunting question: how could a man with such a history be allowed to live so close to a child? The answers lie in the complexities of our justice system, a system that failed both Jessica and her family in the most tragic of ways. With this understanding, we turn our attention to the harrowing events that transpired on that fateful night, forever marking the lives of those left behind. When 9-year-old Jessica Lunsford vanished from her home on the morning of February 24, 2005, a community plunged into despair. The once peaceful streets of Homosassa, Florida, were now cloaked in fear and uncertainty. As the sun rose on that fateful day, the Lunsford family awoke to an unimaginable nightmare: their beloved daughter was missing. Immediately, law enforcement sprang into action. The Citrus County Sheriff's Office initiated a massive search operation, mobilizing deputies, search and rescue teams, and volunteers from the community. The air was thick with anxiety as officers fanned out across the neighborhood, canvassing homes and questioning residents. Helicopters soared overhead, their blades slicing through the still morning air, while K-9 units scoured the nearby woods, noses to the ground, searching for any sign of the little girl. The urgency of the situation was palpable. Jessica was not just another missing child, she was a bright light extinguished too soon, and every moment counted. As search teams combed through the area, the Lunsford family stood at the center of the storm, their hearts heavy with worry. Mark Lunsford, Jessica's father, became a voice for his daughter, pleading with the public for help. His heart-wrenching calls for information echoed through the media, resonating with parents across the nation who felt the weight of his anguish. As the days turned into weeks, the investigation intensified. Officers meticulously gathered witness statements, hoping to piece together the puzzle of Jessica's disappearance. Neighbors recalled seeing a man lurking in the vicinity, a figure who seemed out of place, a shadow that had gone unnoticed until now. Hints of a darker presence emerged, leading investigators to John Cooey, a convicted sex offender living just a stone's throw from the Lunsford home. On March 12, law enforcement tracked Cooey down in Augusta, Georgia, where he was arrested on an unrelated cannabis possession warrant. At first, he was merely a person of interest, but his proximity to the Lunsford home and his sordid past painted a chilling picture. During questioning, Cooey denied any involvement in Jessica's disappearance, claiming he had moved to Georgia for work. However, his alibi crumbled under scrutiny, and investigators were determined to dig deeper. The breakthrough came when Cooey's half-sister granted police permission to search the trailer where he had been living. What they discovered inside would send shockwaves through the investigation. In a darkened bedroom closet, investigators found a blood-stained mattress and pillows, a gruesome hint of the horrors that had transpired. Forensic analysis revealed the presence of both Cooey's and Jessica's DNA, compelling evidence that linked him directly to her abduction. However, the investigation was not without its challenges. The initial search efforts were hampered by the sheer volume of information pouring in, as tips flooded in from concerned citizens, many of whom had seen or heard something that could lead to Jessica. Sorting through this deluge proved arduous, and investigators faced mounting pressure to deliver answers to a terrified community. As law enforcement worked tirelessly, they encountered a significant hurdle when Cooey's confession was ultimately deemed inadmissible in court. This setback threatened to derail the case, but investigators remained resolute. They focused on building a solid case based on the physical evidence collected, witness statements, and Cooey's own incriminating remarks made to investigators and jail guards. The forensic evidence was irrefutable: the bloodstains, the DNA, and the chilling context of what had taken place in that trailer. Each piece of evidence served as a testament to Jessica's tragic fate and the reality of Cooey's monstrous actions. The mounting pressure on law enforcement fueled their determination, igniting a fire within them to seek justice for the little girl who could no longer speak for herself. As investigators pieced together the timeline of events, they discovered the horrifying details of Jessica's last days. Cooey had lured her into his home, where he held her captive, subjected her to unspeakable acts, and ultimately took her life. The weight of this knowledge was a heavy burden for those involved, but it also solidified their resolve. They would not rest until justice was served. Finally, on March 17, 2005, Cooey was arrested and charged with the murder of Jessica Lunsford. The news reverberated through the community, a mixture of relief and heartbreak, knowing that while justice might be on the horizon, it would never erase the pain of losing an innocent child. The investigation into Jessica's murder was not just a pursuit of a criminal, it was a quest for answers, for closure, and for a community desperate to heal. As the case moved toward trial, the legacy of Jessica Lunsford would loom large, a reminder of the fragility of childhood and the need for vigilance in protecting the most vulnerable among us. In the aftermath of Jessica Lunsford's abduction and murder, her family stood at the precipice of a harrowing journey, a quest for justice that would demand every ounce of their strength and resolve. Mark Lunsford, Jessica's father, emerged as a powerful voice for his daughter, channeling his grief into a relentless pursuit of accountability for the man who had shattered their lives. Following John Cooey's arrest on March 17, 2005, the weight of the charges against him was staggering. He faced accusations of kidnapping, sexual battery, and first-degree murder, the culmination of a horrific crime that had taken the life of a 9-year-old girl. As the legal process began to unfold, the Lunsford family found themselves thrust into the public eye, their personal tragedy becoming a focal point of the media and the community. The initial court proceedings were a whirlwind of emotions. Cooey was formally charged, and the evidence against him painted a chilling portrait of the events that had transpired. The courtroom, typically a place of order and decorum, was charged with tension as the gravity of the situation settled over everyone present. The Lunsford family sought to find solace in the pursuit of justice, but the journey ahead would be fraught with challenges. As the trial date approached, the atmosphere grew more palpable, with both the prosecution and defense preparing for a battle that would unfold in the public eye. The prosecution, armed with a wealth of damning evidence, was determined to present a case that showcased Cooey's monstrous actions. They highlighted the DNA evidence found on the blood-stained mattress, the chilling confession that had been deemed inadmissible, and the witness statements that linked him to Jessica's abduction. The lead prosecutor painted a vivid picture of Jessica's last days, invoking the innocence of a child who had been so cruelly snatched from her home. Each detail served to remind the jury of the young life lost, of the laughter that had been silenced forever. The prosecution implored the jurors to see beyond the crime itself, to understand the devastating impact on Jessica's family and the community that mourned her loss. On the other side of the courtroom stood the defense, tasked with mounting a formidable challenge against the overwhelming evidence. They sought to humanize Cooey, arguing that his troubled past and mental health issues played a significant role in his actions. They presented testimonies from family members who spoke of his difficult upbringing and the emotional scars left by years of abuse. The defense attempted to paint a picture of a man who was, in their view, a product of his circumstances, a narrative that many found difficult to accept in light of the horror he had inflicted. As the trial unfolded, the courtroom became a battleground of conflicting narratives. The prosecution's case was bolstered by the forensic evidence and witness testimonies, while the defense leaned heavily on appeals to emotion, attempting to sway the jury with Cooey's tragic backstory. The tension reached a crescendo as each side presented their closing arguments, leaving the jury to grapple with the weight of their decision. Finally, after hours of deliberation, the jury returned with a verdict that echoed throughout the courtroom, a unanimous decision of guilty on all counts. The air was thick with a mixture of relief and sorrow as Jessica's family embraced, knowing that while justice had been served, it could never bring their daughter back. The sentencing phase followed, where the gravity of Cooey's actions was laid bare once more. The prosecution called for the death penalty, arguing that the heinous nature of the crime warranted the ultimate punishment. They emphasized the brutality of Jessica's murder, the violation of her innocence, and the lasting impact on her family and community. Mark Lunsford, driven by the pain of his loss, stood before the court and spoke passionately, urging the judge to impose the harshest possible sentence. In stark contrast, the defense argued against the death penalty, citing Cooey's troubled history and mental health issues. They claimed that his life had been marked by despair and turmoil, suggesting that he was not entirely responsible for his actions. Yet, the weight of the evidence proved insurmountable. On August 24, 2007, John Cooey was sentenced to death, alongside 3 consecutive life sentences. The verdict resonated like a thunderclap across the courtroom, a final declaration of accountability for the man who had wreaked havoc on the lives of so many. As Cooey was led away, the Lunsford family found a measure of solace in knowing that justice had prevailed, even if it could never heal their wounds. Jessica's murder not only ignited a firestorm of media coverage but also propelled her father into the realm of advocacy. Mark Lunsford became a tireless champion for children's rights, fighting for legislative changes that would ensure stronger protections for vulnerable youth. His efforts culminated in the Jessica Lunsford Act, a landmark piece of legislation aimed at tightening restrictions on sex offenders and enhancing monitoring practices, a legacy born from the ashes of tragedy. As the courtroom doors closed on the legal proceedings, the Lunsford family's journey was far from over. They would continue to honor Jessica's memory, ensuring that her story served as a catalyst for change and a reminder of the fragile beauty of childhood. In the wake of Jessica Lunsford's tragic murder, the emotional scars ran deep within her family and the local community. Mark Lunsford, devastated by the loss of his only daughter, was thrust into a relentless pursuit of justice. The laughter that once filled their home was replaced by silence, a constant reminder of innocence lost. The psychological impact on Jessica's family was profound. Each day brought a new wave of heartache, and Mark became a powerful advocate for change, urging for greater protections for children. The community, once safe, now grappled with fear, as parents locked their doors a little tighter, their vigilance heightened. Jessica's case sparked a national conversation about child safety and the systemic failures that had allowed John Cooey to evade scrutiny. The media coverage drew attention to the inadequacies in sex offender laws, igniting public demand for change. Mark Lunsford became an outspoken advocate, sharing Jessica's story to push for legislative reform. His efforts led to the creation of the Jessica Lunsford Act, which strengthened the monitoring of sex offenders and imposed harsher penalties for crimes against children. This legislation passed in Florida and inspired similar laws in 42 other states, marking a significant shift in child safety measures. The national dialogue also fostered greater awareness about child protection, prompting schools to implement enhanced safety protocols and encouraging parents to discuss safety with their children. While the legislative victories were significant, the scars of Jessica's murder remained. Mark and his family found strength in their advocacy, honoring her memory to prevent other families from experiencing similar pain. Jessica's story became a catalyst for change, transforming grief into purpose. Ultimately, Jessica Lunsford's legacy serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of community, resilience, and the unyielding fight for justice. It underscores the responsibility to protect the innocent and ensure their voices are never silenced again. As we reflect on the tragic case of Jessica Lunsford, it is essential to consider the broader implications of her story. Jessica's life and untimely death serve as a somber reminder of the vulnerabilities that children face and the urgent need for vigilance within our communities. The importance of community involvement cannot be overstated. Each of us has a role to play in safeguarding our children, whether through active participation in local safety initiatives, fostering open communication about personal safety, or simply being aware of our surroundings. Together, we can create an environment where children feel safe to explore and grow. Child safety measures must be prioritized, not only through legislation but also through education and awareness. Schools, parents, and community organizations must work together to implement effective safety protocols that empower children to recognize and avoid dangerous situations. Equipping children with knowledge about safety can be transformative, giving them the tools to protect themselves. Moreover, we must cultivate a culture of empathy and support for victims and their families. The aftermath of such tragedies can leave deep emotional scars, and it is crucial that we offer compassion and understanding to those affected. By fostering a supportive community, we can help families heal and advocate for change. Ultimately, Jessica's story is a call to action, a reminder that we must remain vigilant, involved, and compassionate. Let us honor her memory by committing to the safety and well-being of our children and supporting one another in the face of adversity. Together, we can work towards a future where every child is safe, cherished, and able to thrive. In conclusion, the tragic case of Jessica Lunsford highlights the critical importance of community vigilance, child safety measures, and the need for empathy towards victims and their families. We have explored the profound impact her story had on her family, the community, and the national conversation surrounding child protection. As we reflect on these key points, let us remember that preventing such tragedies requires a collective effort. It is our responsibility to create safe environments for our children, to be proactive in advocating for effective policies, and to support organizations dedicated to child safety. Now, more than ever, we must act with purpose and determination to ensure that no child suffers the same fate as Jessica. Join us in this vital mission, become an advocate for child safety in your community and support relevant organizations working tirelessly to protect the most vulnerable among us. If you found value in this video, please like and share it to spread awareness. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more content that encourages meaningful change. Together, we can make a difference and help prevent future tragedies. Thank you for watching.